Hey, what's happening? I'm Miles Kennedy. You might know me from Alter Bridge, sing with Slash and the Conspirators, and I also am a solo artist. How I would describe myself as a guitar player? I try to be versatile. I mean, I came up the ranks wanting to learn a lot of different styles. I think first and foremost, I try to be an emotional player. It's very important to me to maintain a certain emotive quality. I think the biggest misconception is that I'm just a rhythm player. I do like rhythm, but I actually kind of started more focused on lead playing. I was the nerd locked away in his room for hours on end trying to learn, Eddie Van Halen solos and whatnot. So yeah, lead is a big part of what I do. 9 times out of 10, I start with guitar part. So I want to know what the chord progression is. I look at that kind of as the canvas that I'm going to paint over with a melody and a lyric. But occasionally, a melody will just kind of haunt me. Maybe I'll dream it. The story I tell the most is when back in the day, when I used to mow the lawn a lot, I came up with the melody for Year of the Tiger, and this was like 20 some odd years ago. And I, in the year of the tiger, I won't weep and moan. And so that started then, and then I, went back and put it to the guitar, but put together a chord progression for it. But generally, it's the riff and the chord progression first. Jazz and fusion were kind of I think in a lot of ways, had the most profound influence on me in the sense that it inspired me to constantly want to try new things, and I realized that some of these guys like Miles Davis and John Coltrane, even though I don't play like them and I couldn't play like them if I tried, because they were just in another league. What I found inspirational about them was just their fearlessness. That was the thing about those guys. They just had this ability to stretch out and do it in a way, and they were very present the way they played, and that's something that I'm still striving towards. And they raised the bar so high for so many of us that a lot of us are forever in debt to the legacy of guys like that. Yeah, so since I'm known for playing with these really great guitar players, Slash and with Mark Tremonti. Well, it's different with Slash because when I do play rhythm, it's on just a few songs at this point, and it is strictly rhythm. With Alter Bridge, Mark's been very, once he discovered that I was a lead player as well, he really nudged me to play more in that context, which I really enjoy. He knows how much I love playing lead. So the trick is you don't want to step on their territory sonically, right? Frequency-wise, you want to be very cognizant of what are the frequencies they're using a lot of. And it took I want to say it took a good 2 years playing with Mark because he uses a lot of real estate sonically, a lot of low end. There's a certain cut that he has in the upper mids. So it was just trying amp after amp after amp to find where it was going to fit with his. And it was when we were making Blackbird that we stumbled onto, it was Elvis and I, our producer, and there just so happened to be a Diesel Herbert in the studio. And when we put that in the mix, it was like, oh, there it is, because it sits right in the middle, and so it filled out the whole thing and made what it did is it made it complement Mark's sound as opposed to walk all over it. Yeah, as far as practicing, how do you practice when you've got 3 different entities that you're trying to balance, not just writing for those entities or with people involved, but also touring, press, and all that? I think for me, it's just whenever I can fit in, I was just hanging out in the dressing room, just kind of noodling around, getting warmed up, but it's through that constantly having the guitar with you. I remember hearing stories about Jimi Hendrix and how he had a guitar with him all the time, and that really stuck with me. It's just the idea that if you stick it in a case and you're like, okay, well, I'll practice, but then you got to get up and gotta go pull it out of the case, and you maybe feel lazy. But my theory is if it's always sitting there, you're more likely to be drawn to it. And so I'll just kind of chip away. A lot of times I won't even say, I got to go practice. It'll just be, well, there it is. I'm going to see what happens. And before you know it, an hour will go by, and you might have mastered some new, technique or lick that you wouldn't have otherwise. So have it nearby at all times. But I think one of the big things that I'm learning now that I'm back out touring in the solo realm again is just how important it is to be doing it on a nightly basis. Because I do feel, even since we've been on the road now for 4 or 5 weeks, and I do feel an evolution, especially with improvising. Improvising is something that I really love to do, and just able to speak more fluidly. So it's repetition, really. It's just the more you do it, the better you'll get, like with anything. So yeah, it's just practice makes perfect, hopefully. Long-standing relationship with D'Addario. I think the genesis of it would have been back in like 2004. I think Mark was using them, and that's how I first experienced kind of what those strings do and what the company does. Actually, that's not true. Rewind even farther back, because I worked at a music store for a long time, and I remember being really impressed with kind of there was a philosophy there that I really appreciated. I appreciated like the packaging, like, being kind of mindful of the environment and things like that, which I thought was really cool. Then just as far as the way they sounded, the way they felt, I've been using the NY XLs now for a while. So yeah, it's been decades, and I'm very grateful, to say the least. Altered tunings, it's a big part of what I do. It has been for quite some time. I think it's through a few different players. Obviously, Jimmy Page, discovering how he was getting a lot of those sounds. Players like a guy named Chris Whitley, who I'm a massive fan of, and a friend of mine, Ian Thornley, turned me on to a fair amount of altered tunings back in the day when we were touring together. It's very important. For me, it really can affect as a songwriter. It can really inspire you. There's something about having strings ring out, when you have a progression, you have a sequence of chords, but you have these strings that are just ringing out throughout it. It will create these interesting sonic landscapes, and that will inspire me melodically as well, that I probably wouldn't have come up with just in standard tuning or half step down. So I highly recommend getting into it once you've kind of, you feel like you've mastered the neck to the best of your abilities in the standard tunings. Start messing with start with Open G. Open G is where I started, Open D, and then get creative and come up with your own tunings, and you'll be, I think, very inspired, to say the least. Choosing the right strings. First of all, the string gauge. So that's a really important one, and that can vary dramatically with the tuning that I'm using and the scale of the guitar. So, for example, with my signature guitar, it's a 25.5-inch scale. Normally, like back in the day, I was when I was using the shorter scale, like on like the 245, the PRS 245, the McCarty and whatnot, I would use 10s. Now, with this, I prefer to use the 9.5s now, especially as the years go on and my hands appreciate just a little bit less tension. So that's if I'm tuned down a half step. If I'm tuned at standard, I'll use 9 sometimes. I feel like, why make it harder for myself? I haven't noticed a dramatic difference sonically. We've A/B'd it, and it's like, well, if it sounds the same, I don't feel like I'm losing anything. But it's making it easier, then why not? But then with the really crazy tunings, we'll use 11s sometimes. Sometimes we'll get individual strings, up into 60 and whatnot in the bottom one, so it's not flapping around too much. It really depends on, just what I need, what the song needs, and what my hand needs. You see the sun upon your face. The advice I would give to somebody who wants to become a guitar player, a musician, and have this be their calling in life is ask yourself, how badly do you want it? Because it's a lot of work. It's not something you just do for a few hours. I mean, it's something that, as I've been very fortunate, incredibly lucky, but I've also worked really hard. I've been obsessed since I was 14 years old. It's all I wanted to do. So I made the sacrifices necessary. But also, another question you should ask yourself is, are you doing it because you want to, or are you doing it because you have to? So that's the big one. Like, I kind of want to be I'd like to be a rock and roll guitar player. I'd like to be a jazz guitar player. Or do you have to be? See, that's the difference. And if you have to be, then I highly recommend chasing this down because it is the best.